Good morning. I'm not doing a dramatic entrance. I just didn't have myself fully set up yet this morning. So I want to talk to you today about sales and how sales is just helping someone mediate their choice. So I'm Marla Copal, and I'm going to apologize right up front if I sneeze today. I've got my little allergy tonic here, but it is allergy season in Colorado. And I've already raised the roof a couple inches today. So let's hope I don't do it for you online here. So let's talk about sales. Let's talk about this thing that people dread. First of all, sales is just another form of service. You are serving others to find something that might be useful or that they might need in their life. That's it. That's what it is. Yes, there's this whole big humma about you need to do this, you need to say this, you need to do this, but you can't say anything. You have no right to say anything until you hear their need. Good morning. This means that in order to hear a need, you will probably have to ask questions because not everyone is as great a communicator as you might be. So a lot of people have tendencies to just ask questions. What does this do? Well, when they say that, you want to know what's up here in their head. What do they need? What are they thinking about that they might need? Are they looking at this product because it might help them with something? But let them identify first what it is they're seeking. And there's great conversational ways to get into those conversations with people. Now, the first mistake, I think, I'm going to back up here a bit. The first mistake I think everybody makes in sales is they think they only have so much time. You think of all those times you talk to your kids and you wanted to shut up until you tell them everything you want to tell them. And they just can't do it, can they? Well, don't ever expect a customer to be quiet and let you say all your stuff. You want to have a good bevy of questions that are open, that are just generic, that let them talk. You can't have any attitudes about they're talking too long, they're talking too short. You can't have any attitudes. And these are the areas where I find people fall down, is they don't enjoy listening. They don't have grace around listening. And so people talk about needing to listen, that listening is the game, but they don't do it. They think, well, that works for everybody else. So why am I talking about this today? Because yesterday I was teaching a class, and in it I say these things, and they're truth bombs for me, but they're not things that I put out in words all the time. But somebody repeated it back to me. Sales is just a mediation of choice. If you're selling something, you are a mediator for their choice. Not just their choice to buy or to not buy, but their choice for what will you have that will serve them. They're choosing. So when you're in a selling process, you don't have anything to sell until you've set up a choice process for your client, for your customer. So the world, every book you go, this is all in those books, but it's the between the lines information that nobody says, nope, this is what it's like. So let's talk about an example for what mediating choice can look like. Mediating choice in a sales. And I'm going to take a simple example. I'm going to take appliances because many years ago, I sold appliances. And so I would see people come in and they'd go over and they'd walk next to a stove and they're looking at it. And in my mind, I'm going, okay, that's a glass top stove. They're talking about stuff. And so when I go up and I introduce myself and I say, so tell me what it features, or however we got off in the conversation, I kind of learned who was cooking, who was the cook in the family. Sometimes it was the man. Sometimes it was one of the kids. Sometimes it was mom. And I said, well, what do you like to cook? So I understood what their favorite foods are. Sometimes when you understand their favorite foods, you can almost recognize that they're using cookery that will work really, really well on a glass top stove. Or if they say, well, I like to do this and fry and pancakes, and I'll quickly say, are you someone who likes to saute a lot of things and bang the pan on the stove? And they'd say, yes. And I said, then I don't recommend a glass top stove for that type of active cooking. And they looked at me and they said, well, why? And I said, it's glass, just like a window. You hit it and it's broken. And they had never thought of that. See, they were thinking it looked good, it was clean, it was going to be easy to clean, it looked really slick in their kitchen. And they were going to move from a gas stove to an electric stove. But when I discovered how their cooking style was, the types of pans they used, how they liked to cook, and they were very active sauteers, or, there's a lot of people nowadays that take on cooking as a hobby, as their art form. Then they had to realize that, well, the stove wouldn't necessarily suit their style. Did I tell them that? I never said you can't do that. I just asked how they cooked. Then I gave them some tips on the glass top stove versus the gas stove. And then they chose. They made a choice. So one of the things that we all have in our head are these great stories about salespeople, car salespeople who never listen to us. I've had a lot of great salespeople in the car business over the last 20 years, and they're really great. But I do remember those times when they hadn't had great training and they just wanted to slam dunk you into a car. But buying is an emotional decision. Buying a stove is an emotional decision. Buying a car is an emotional decision. As a salesperson, you are mediating emotions. What emotions will be fulfilled, or maybe the frustration emotions will be postponed because they make the choices they want. The only reason people have buyer's remorse is because they didn't give themselves time enough to think it through on their own. And somebody kept thinking the fact that they were being quiet was an opportunity to just keep hounding and hounding and hounding. Well, let me tell you, sometimes there are a few people out there that if you hound them enough, they'll say yes so that they can just cancel quietly because they don't want to interfere. They don't want you interfering with them. So for some people, saying yes is their way of getting out of a trap. So if you're a mediator for sales, you're not going to find yourself in that position, because what you're going to do is to say, tell me more. What's going on? I remember a family once, they came in and they're admiring the glass top stoves, and then they go over to a stove with electric burners. And it's like, well, why are you going over there with the electric burners? So I just said, what's going on? And she says, the kids are having to pay for this one. They broke the glass top stove. So I really want my glass top stove, but until they're moved out of the house, we're going back to electric coil. Whoa. So, all right, mom said her piece. Now we went back over a few things, and then that's fine. And that was what they wanted. So we found them at least one that let them cook the way they needed to cook, because it was a big family. So it was quite interesting in that particular case. There wasn't much I was going to mediate. I wasn't going to save the kids from having the stove that they didn't want, because they all still wanted the glass top stove. But she was probably right. They didn't know how to behave with it. So there's always something going on that we want to ask people. So the value of questions is that we just don't live in a mystery when we're talking to our customers. We want to mediate choice, but we have to ask enough questions to give them enough to think about. So just think about this today. Think about where you want to improve your sales skills. Think about where you really want to work better with people. And maybe that's time for a conversation with me. My information is there. You can always have a 15-minute strategy call with me. And let's just see if you're running away from saying you're in sales, because all sales is great service. Talk to you soon. Bye.